All right. Hey, Jay. So we're going to listen to Fela Kuti and the African 70. The song is called Open and Close, and I'm just looking at it here in a piece of software called Sound Studio, and I'm just going to talk about it as it plays through. So first thing, we're going to start playing it, and I'm going to talk about it as it plays. So here we've got a 4 on the floor groove with the offbeats on the saxophones, some improvised keyboard. A big part of what I feel when I listen to this song and a lot of Fela Kuti music is a conductor pointing and showcasing different instruments at different times with some structure that's available. So this is a structured portion that goes into a percussion break right here. Got the melody that comes in with the horns. Okay, the guitar is playing in the background. Now you'll notice that soon the keyboard comes in, and it's almost as if he was summoned by the conductor in order to come in this moment to start improvising. It feels really impromptu and not unplanned. But there's definitely a structure to how long this part goes on for, or possibly a cue that says, hey, we're going to end this part coming up. And when that cue comes, we'll hear the ending. Back to the percussion, so everybody ends and the percussion solo comes in. Drum solo. Solo is going to go on. Now, as the conductor of an orchestra like this, you're really going to want to sense and feel when the drummer or the soloist is done soloing, because you want to make sure they get their peaks and valleys and build up in so that you can come in strong. So everybody's getting excited at this point in the solo. People want to come in. The conductor is still going to wait until the right time. You can hear the conductor just introduces the band with his voice. And back into that beginning part. Almost a structure to what the piano's playing, but it still sounds improvised. Percussion break. Introducing everybody with a voice. Now, by now, we're really getting into the emotion of this song, and is really a strutting song. You can sort of feel the strut in the song, and the keyboard solo never really goes overboard in that. The keyboard pushes it, the solo pushes it, but it never goes so strong that it overtakes the strut of this song. You could feel in this song sunny, happy, relaxed. You know, there's almost like, if you can think of, if the musicians were thinking of a moment in which their life was difficult, but there was a day where the sun was shining and all could be forgotten. That's the feeling that you can hear everybody really has behind the music that they're playing. There's a bit of swing in the drums that there's a bit of swing and swagger in the drums that's just a little bit positive feeling. Everything in this feels like relaxed and laid back. Listen to how the bass and the guitar are interplaying with each other. So they're both kind of improvising around a very similar contextual melody. There's a little bit of flavor added in, but there's definitely a link between the guitar and the bass. And guitar and bass definitely has a nice tone when they're played together. The stringy sound of the guitar and the deep sound of the bass, the warmth of the bass. In that part that we just listened to, the shots of the horns
This is a new dance called Open and Close.
really give space for the solo over top. It's kind of like a second half and a more exciting half of the first part, where the solo was just the horn without the background horns. So having a second half of a solo be padded with some nice horn shots that kind of keep it going and don't necessarily, they're like rolling almost, is sort of what I heard in that.
Very, very adult. They say no be story. The thing where you need and go tell us now. I want to tell you a story.
Really powerful in this part where the guitar and the bass are doing the mimicry together, and then you just have the percussion. It really just adds a nice little like break in the song. So you had all this song that happened where the drums were in, and now you've got a nice section where you've just got the groove without the drums and vocals on top to really accentuate that vocal part without losing the groove.
Put your leg and arm together. Open and close. Throw your leg and arm away. Open and close. Throw your leg and arm away. Open and close. Bend your hands like black man. Open and close. Bend your hands.
And the hallmark of Afrobeat music being that call and response, and you can hear the way that the vocals were written in a way that you've got the leader singing to the pack, and the pack is responding to the leader.
I want to show you how to do open and close. All you have to do, you just open your arms and legs at the same time and close your legs and arms at the same time to the beat. like this. Open, close, open, close, open, close, open, close, open and close, open and close, open and close, open. I want to tell you a story. I want to tell you a story.
The dance that he's describing is ecstatic, and it really goes with the song. You can hear the emotion and feel the emotion, and you can see it in your mind with the dance that he's describing.
Then they call her, open and close. Tell me waiting, then they call her, open and close. Put your leg and arm together, open and close. Throw your leg and arm away, open and close. Bend your ass like black man, open and close.
You can hear the bounce in that vocal there. It goes with that sort of jauntiness that the song carries through it, where it's just laid back and there's a bit of a swing to it. You can hear that swing. That's a little bit delayed in the and a little bit rushed at the beginning, kind of gives it that swing. And that's very important. You can hear that the whole band, band except the soloists, are really connecting with that swing. The soloists are like the storyline, and the groove is the setting. And so you have all the groove members that are playing the different groove aspects going with that feeling, and the solo is almost the story on top of that describes so much more than just the setting that everything is in. So you have the soloist that's playing almost like a plethora of emotions that kind of go in the container of what the groove is setting. You know, you could sort of see the yellow coloring on the sidewalk or the yellow coloring of the dirt or gravel that you would get from a sunny day with the groove, and then the person is the solo. That's the person that you're following in that moment of the song. And the voice in the song is the mind. That's what the mind is conveying. Obviously, music and the soloing aspects can't convey what the words can, but the words can convey what the solo can't. And so you have that balance of emotional context where the solo. Okay, let's listen. Right. Let's listen to the next one, Antibalas Afrobeat Orchestra. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, so correct me if I'm wrong. Here we go. uprising. Now this is a little bit more modern, so it's possibly more structured than the Fela Kuti material would be. Got an intro. Saxophone melody. So even just noticing right off the bat the vibe that the organ gives. And then it goes into a groove. This one's a little bit more intense than the open-close piece. The holes in the bass line really accentuate the feeling of the song a lot. And on a big sound system, you're going to really start to feel the difference of when the bass is there and when the bass comes out. When it's present and when it's absent. Very powerful with bass, having moments where it plays and moments where it's absent. A nice marker to the beginning of the solo section with a bit of percussion before they come in. I also noticed how that was really prevalent in the Fela Kuti song, where before the solo starts, there's one bar at the beginning of the section that kind of introduces the section, whether it's the horns come in and they start playing before the solo comes in over top, or as in this one, where right before the trumpet solo was almost as if you had the drum break come in this part right here. I'm just going to play it again. And then you come in with the trumpet solo. And it's almost as if the trumpet player in this moment is just either being pointed at and saying, hey, it's your turn to solo, or even if it's planned, that the trumpet player is taking a moment to really get into the vibe of the music before playing that first note. And you could really hear again, just like the Fela Kuti track, that the whole band has a certain vibe to it. This one feels more urban than the last one. There's a bit more anxiety to the groove. The groove is a little faster, a little bit less swing. And you can hear in the horn part that the person in this, the context of this story, the person who's playing the horn is really tapping into the urban traffic. You can hear the traffic in the playing and the busyness in a different way than we could hear in the Fela Kuti song. The Fela Kuti song might have been busy, but it was a totally different groove. If we just bounce back for a second, we're listening to this and then we're going to listen to Fela Kuti. And we're going to listen to Fela Kuti. See, so much more laid back. Wow, it's incredible just to hear it in the groove. And back to the frantic sounds here. So maybe not super frantic, but just enough, just a little bit more anxiety, busyness, traffic, city streets. also that this person who's playing the sax has a completely different take on it than the trumpet. So if we go back to the trumpet. The vibe is totally different. You can almost sense that the person playing the saxophone here takes the city streets with stride, whereas the trumpet player is really, you know, rushing around and trying to get to their appointments, etc. And as a producer, what one might do, and as a conductor of an orchestra, is to really just encourage people and listen to how they're playing, and encourage them to play into that feeling and become aware of that feeling and aware of the person that they're, the story that they're telling from their own personal heart. There's a nice thing to notice there at the end there, where there was kind of like a tag to the solo. Almost like a bridge. So you've got the ending of the solo. And then this nice tag. A little bit of soloing over top, the horns come in, and then the soloist plays along here at the end. And then they all join up together. So there was kind of like a nice little ending there. That could have been improvised, but also could have been easily planned. So it's interesting, the progression of the solos in this song, planned or not, really kind of like came down from something intense and anxious to something a little bit more mellow and laid back. And I think that it really contrasts the groove that stays constant and still conveys that city feel. This is a nice conjunction of solo and background ones. And the call and response between the solo and the background ones is really powerful. Back into the melody and then out right away. So it's kind of gives you a hint of melody there, which was nice, and it breaks down. Let's listen to that again. Just a hint of melody and then breaking down. And then breaking it down again. Here we go. So doing that quick drop into a percussion solo, into a drum solo. Percussion stays groovy. Drums are playing on top of the percussion. Keeps the dance going and the freedom for the drummer to improvise. So that was interesting, because when it comes in from the drum solo, you can really feel like, oh, it comes in full, but then when the bass comes in, that's when you really feel the whole band. So we're coming out of the drum solo. makes you feel like, oh, this is full. And then when the bass comes in, you really feel it. Here it comes in. And the organ. Nice little build towards the ending. Drum solo, horn melody, bass and organ coming. Nice. So one big contrast between the Fela Kuti song and the Antibalas Afrobeat Orchestra song is that the Fela Kuti song really feels like it has a very natural flow to it. There's some planning, and people know in the band the A part and the B part, and the variations that are going to be played, but it is so obviously conducted. You can hear that, um, you know, things come in and out at a very much free will of the player and the conductor. There's not, and I think also what that lends itself to is a really quite a long journey. So we're looking at a 14-minute song, 14 and a half minute song that that really comes in and out of very simple parts, but there's a freeness to the way the conductor is delivering the song to the audience, and it tends to sound more natural and more and freer when that method is being used. Whereas in the Antibalas Afrobeat Orchestra, you could really hear that it's planned, and every change and every little improvisation is sculpted into the song for a certain length. There's much less it's much less live, it's a lot more structured, and you can see that it's about half the amount of time. And I'm willing to bet that if you were to take the song open and close and structure it with a band, you probably end up with, again, a 7-minute song versus a 14.5-minute song, because it takes time when you're actually listening to the musicians and developing the structure as you're playing. You might hang on to something for longer than you would if it was structured. When you're structuring the music, it can often move on too quickly in a live setting and not necessarily have the natural characteristics. It's a lot like the way, I believe the way that Fela Kuti performs with his band is probably a lot like the way that we perform in Ableton Live with clip mode, where you might add and subtract elements at free will and kind of conduct the way that the flow of the music is going to be. Let's just take a look at your song and listen to it here. Here we go. So already you can sort of hear the structurization that the Antibalas Afrobeat Orchestra had in theirs, and the city feel of the Antibalas or Afrobeat Orchestra. Obviously, we're really we're not dealing with the real band sounds, and so that's something that I would really highly encourage to explore with the band, is the feeling behind each instrument and each section. So essentially, you have each instrument that's playing, but you also have the rhythm section and you have the melody section, and they're so obviously linked, however so obviously separate, so that you can hear that the melody section, when it's performed as the main melody, it's really connected to the rhythm section. But when it's performed as a solo, when the melody is a solo, there's a contrast between the two, and the solo tells the story just the way the vocals would tell the story. So maybe something to do with your solos with your band is to try and go and maybe improvise even back and forth between the vocals and the solo, and really get the vibe of what you're conveying with the vocal of the song to come through with extra colors in the solos. And that could be really helpful, is to contrast the vocals with the way that the solo instruments are played, to really get a cohesive emotional feeling in the song. So that's my suggestion for your music. But definitely consider the different aspects of these two songs that we're listening to, and see how you might be able to add some freeness, or have a feeling behind a setting. Imagine what it might look like. So in the Antibalas Afrobeat Orchestra, I was really imagining a city life. You know, the band is from New York. There may be a faster paced life, whereas when you listen to the Fela Kuti Orchestra, you're hearing maybe the light at the end of the tunnel. You're hearing the one day where where you want to let go of the stress of everyday hardship, and it just sounds different. You sort of seeing a different setting, a different visual, and a different feeling behind what you're listening to. So that's my what I wanted to reference in our class, and I hope that you enjoy this recording.